Caitlin Clark just got bodied in a brutal, malicious way right on national television, and instead of defending her, instead of stepping up to protect the golden goose of the entire league, her own team and the basketball establishment went completely, deafeningly silent. The people out there, the lazy pundits and the talking heads on the major networks who are constantly calling her overhyped or claiming she is just a product of a biased media creation, they are completely missing the massive, glaring point right now. If you tuned in and actually watched that preseason game against the Dallas Wings, you did not just watch a basketball game, you watched a deeply unsettling, highly disturbing reality unfold right there on the hardwood. The lazy, narrative-driven mainstream sports media is desperately attempting to spin this massive 15-point preseason loss an embarrassing 95-80 defeat at the hands of the Dallas Wings as some sort of normal collective team failure. They want you to believe that the Indiana Fever just had a bad night at the office, that it is just preseason rust, and that everyone needs to calm down. But the raw, unforgiving, cold, hard mathematics of the box score tell a completely different, absolutely terrifying story that nobody in the corporate sports media wants to talk about. We are not looking at a bad night of basketball. We are looking at what appears to be undeniable, catastrophic coaching malpractice that is currently destroying the Indiana Fever franchise from the inside out. If you stay with me until the very end of this breakdown, you are going to find out exactly why the media narrative surrounding Caitlin Clark is currently built on a massive, calculated half-truth. You are going to see the one singular, mind-blowing statistic that completely changes how you will view this entire controversy moving forward, and you will uncover the real, hidden reason why what is happening to Caitlin Clark right now matters for the entire future of women's professional sports. And trust me, it is so much bigger than just a game of basketball. Just a quick note before we dive deep into the film room and the analytics. Everything you are about to hear is based entirely on publicly available information, verified box scores from the league raw film breakdown and data analysis. We are not affiliated with Caitlin Clark, we are not affiliated with the Indiana Fever, and we are certainly not affiliated with the league office. We are not here to pick arbitrary sides in some online culture war. We are just here to passionately break down what the numbers actually say, and right now the numbers are screaming a truth that you absolutely need to hear. Let us start this deep dive by looking directly at the raw box score mathematics. Because these numbers completely and utterly shatter the manufactured public relations narrative that is currently being pushed by the league and the major networks. When you analytically isolate Caitlin Clark's individual performance in this specific game, you do not just see a good rookie showing you witness an absolute undeniable generational offensive masterclass, and the craziest part is that it was occurring entirely within a coaching-mandated cage. I want you to really process what I am about to tell you because it defies basketball logic. Caitlin Clark scored 21 points on an elite, incredibly efficient 66% shooting from the field. She was an incredible 4 of 6 overall from the floor. The three-point shot that the lazy, mathematically illiterate media claimed was broken just a few days ago after one rough outing. It was back to absolute picture-perfect perfection tonight. She went 2 of 3 from deep, splashing those shots with the kind of effortless range that changes the geometry of the entire court. But she did not just settle for outside shots, and this is where her genius really shines. She utilized her elite, unparalleled processing speed, identified the geometric driving lanes through the heavy Dallas defense, absorbed the intense physical contact that they were throwing at her, and she drew a staggering 13 free throw attempts. She calmly stepped up to the charity stripe and knocked down 11 of them, proving that the pressure does not faze her one bit. She also generated 4 crucial assists and grabbed a steal. She was without a single shadow of a doubt the best basketball player stepping on that floor tonight by an absolute country mile. Clark did absolutely everything humanly possible in the heavily restricted minutes she was given, and yet her entire team completely collapsed around her like a house of cards. But here is the most terrifying part of this statistical dominance, the part that should have every single Indiana Fever fan demanding immediate answers from the front office. She did all of this incredible high-level production in exactly 16 microscopic minutes. Let that reality sink deeply into your analytical brain for a second, because it is almost unbelievable. 16 minutes. She was restricted by her own head coach to a frustrating, inexplicable fraction of the basketball game. She attacked relentlessly from the opening tip-off. She scored a blistering 14 points in the first quarter alone, putting the entire league on notice right out of the gate. She brought her total to 19 points by the time they headed into the locker room for halftime. The rust was completely gone, washed away by pure talent. The confidence was radiating off the screen, and you could feel it right through your television set. She was scoring at a lethal, almost unheard of offensive rate of 1.3 points per minute. Do the math on that. If Caitlin Clark plays a standard 30 minutes, instead of being arbitrarily benched by Stephanie White's rigid, unbending spreadsheet rotation, she easily puts up 35 to 40 points tonight against a defense that is anchored by the co-defensive player of the year. That projects to undeniable MVP-level production in her rookie season. That is the exact generational production that the executives at the major sports networks just maliciously and, quite frankly, disrespectfully ranked 10th overall on their broken preseason ranking lists. She steps onto the court, drops a 21-point nuclear bomb in just 16 minutes, and completely embarrasses the mainstream media networks who are constantly trying to tear her down and diminish her impact on the game. And yet, despite this scorching hot performance, despite the fact that she was single-handedly keeping her team in the fight, head coach Stephanie White arrogantly glued her to the bench while the entire game slipped away in the third quarter. After Caitlin Clark comes out on an absolute heater in the first quarter and keeps that massive momentum going right into the second quarter, her coach decides to sit her down and cool her off. The logic being thrown around is that they needed to protect their superstar, asking why they would risk injury or the health of their franchise player in a meaningless game. But while the greatest gravitational playmaker on the entire planet was humiliating the Dallas super team, Stephanie White inexplicably decided that her rigid, pre-planned preseason rotation schedule was somehow more important than winning the basketball game or letting her star player find her ultimate, unstoppable rhythm. She aggressively slammed the brakes on a generational offensive engine, completely disrupting the flow of the game. Fans watching at home were absolutely beside themselves with rage, flooding the internet with their disgust. One incredibly frustrated fan pointed out that it is so obvious that White is not going to support Clark's progress whatsoever. They highlighted the glaring lack of screening for Caitlin, the complete lack of centers to anchor the paint at both ends of the floor, calling the entire strategy destructive. They correctly noted that there is absolutely no support for Clark on the floor at all, and that the lack of screening is exactly what creates these dangerous injuries. They openly questioned if that was actually Stephanie White's main objective, noting that this baffling rotation plan put Clark directly in harm's way and completely shut her down once again. Another passionate viewer echoed this exact sentiment, demanding that Stephanie White be fired and removed from her position immediately before she completely destroys Caitlin Clark's promising career. But this is exactly where Stephanie White committed what might honestly be the most dangerous, negligent, and downright bizarre coaching blunder of the entire decade. Let us establish the fundamental reality of the situation that was unfolding on the floor at that specific moment. This was a completely meaningless preseason exhibition game. It literally does not count in the official standings. By the time the third quarter began, the Indiana Fever's highly paid veteran supporting cast had completely and utterly collapsed on both ends of the floor. The Dallas Wings, who were playing their heavily hyped super team starters, had built an insurmountable double-digit lead that was growing by the minute. Any intelligent, analytically driven championship-level coach looks at that exact equation on the scoreboard, feels the physical intensity of the opposing defense, and makes the easiest, most obvious decision in professional sports. You immediately shut down your generational, billion-dollar franchise point guard. You wrap her in metaphorical bubble wrap. You sit her safely on the bench in her warm-ups because the massive risk of injury in a highly physical, meaningless blowout is absolutely catastrophic to the future of the franchise. But Stephanie White's massive coaching ego seemed to completely overrule basic basketball common sense. Terrified of getting completely blown out and embarrassed on national television, White inexplicably and highly dangerously forced Caitlin Clark back onto the hardwood for 2 highly volatile, incredibly risky minutes in the middle of the third quarter. For absolutely zero logical reason, she sent her back onto the court completely unprotected, throwing her to the wolves when the game was already entirely out of hand. International fans are watching this unfold, and they are absolutely baffled by the sheer incompetence. One viewer from Europe stated that for them, watching overseas, it is unbelievably stupid that White is still the head coach of the Fever, arguing that in any other professional sport across the globe, she would have been fired a very long time ago for actively sabotaging and purposely benching her absolute best player. People are calling her a nightmare of incompetence, and some are even wildly speculating that she is acting like a spy or an infiltrator forced to sabotage the game from within, because her decisions make that little sense. And then, in a terrifying moment that seemed almost inevitable given the chaotic circumstances, exactly what the smart analysts warned about actually happened. At the 7-minute and 51-second mark of the third quarter, the bitter, festering jealousy that seems to tragically infect certain veteran locker rooms crossed the line from physical basketball play into an active, malicious physical hit job. Alana Smith, who was operating essentially as a reckless enforcer for the Dallas Wings defense, delivered a brutal, highly malicious, and completely unnecessary cheap shot directly at Caitlin Clark. As Clark elevated high into the air to attempt a perfectly legal standard 3-point jump shot, Smith entirely abandoned any legitimate attempt to play the actual game of basketball. Realizing that she simply could not stay in front of Clark's elite processing speed and footwork, she intentionally and dangerously extended her foot directly into Clark's designated landing zone. Let me be perfectly crystal clear about this sequence. This is a highly illegal, incredibly dangerous defensive maneuver that directly targets the structural integrity of a helpless shooter's lower body. It is a play designed to hurt, not to defend. The officials, shockingly enough, did the right thing and correctly called it a flagrant foul, but the severe damage was already done. Clark landed incredibly awkwardly directly on top of Smith's extended foot, aggressively tweaking her ankle and crashing hard onto her kneecap on the hardwood. She immediately came up limping, hobbling around the court in obvious, intense pain. For a few terrifying, agonizing seconds, the collective heart of the entire professional basketball world completely stopped beating. Think about the sheer magnitude of that specific moment in time. If that ankle turns exactly 1 inch further, her entire 2026 campaign is instantly over before it even officially begins. The reaction from the fan base to this horrific play was absolutely explosive. Fans are furiously demanding severe accountability. One viewer passionately argued that Alana Smith absolutely must be suspended by the league office to send a loud and clear message to all those who would aggressively go for destroying Caitlin, just like they did last year. They correctly pointed out that no opposing team can legally handle her immense talent. which is highly embarrassing to the established big stars, leading them to resort to these dirty tactics. Another fan vehemently agreed, stating that the coach must be fired immediately because she has absolutely no clue how to properly utilize Clark, warning that White will constantly expose her to severe injuries by subbing her in and out erratically and forcing her to play a wildly inefficient off-the-ball style. The consensus among the hardcore viewers is clear: this was not a basketball play. It was a targeted, malicious attack on the Indiana Fever's championship hopes, and the coaching staff is entirely complicit. But what happened immediately next on the court is honestly almost as infuriating and telling as the flagrant foul itself. Where exactly was the immediate fiery retaliation from the Indiana Fever roster? Where was the team's designated enforcer stepping up, getting directly into Alana Smith's chest, and firmly establishing right then and there that this highly dangerous, dirty behavior will absolutely not be tolerated against their franchise player? The fans saw this glaring omission instantly. One fan made a fantastic point, stating that it seems like the entire team should be doing significantly more to protect or take up for Clark instead of leaving her completely isolated while only one player is targeted. Sophie Cunningham, the highly publicized, tough-talking veteran who was explicitly acquired by the front office to be the team's physical enforcer and protector, provided absolutely zero physical intimidation when her point guard was viciously attacked right in front of her. This complete lack of physical support smoothly brings us to the horrific, eye-watering box score of the veteran supporting cast, and it tells a devastating, undeniable story about the absolute gaping chasm in talent between Caitlin Clark and the rest of this highly paid roster. Let us circle back to Sophie Cunningham for a moment. Not only did she completely fail to physically protect her star teammate, she was a massive liability on the offensive end of the floor. She went completely scoreless in this game. 0 points and amazingly 0 field goal attempts in 14 solid minutes of game action. She was entirely invisible on the offensive end, contributing nothing, and finished the night as a staggering -6 on the plus-minus sheet. But the offensive catastrophe somehow gets infinitely worse when you look further down the stat sheet. Kelsey Mitchell, a highly experienced veteran guard who is heavily relied upon to be a primary perimeter scoring option, had one of the absolute worst, most inefficient games of her entire professional career. Mitchell went a highly inefficient and frustrating 4 of 12 from the field for exactly 10 measly points. She finished the game with a horrific team-worst -18 rating. Let me repeat that, so it sinks in. -18. This absolute disaster class is from a veteran player who just recently signed a massive $1.4 million Supermax contract. Mitchell was mathematically and objectively the worst player on the floor tonight by the plus-minus metric, and frankly, it was not even close. Fans were quick to call out this terrible performance, with one specifically noting that Kelsey Mitchell was simply not good today and demanding that the players must make it a primary point to actually catch Clark's elite passes and make the wide-open baskets she creates for them, adding that they looked absolutely terrible out there. The rest of the veteran bench unit was an equally complete and total nightmare to witness. Demiris Dantas shot a horrific momentum-killing 2 of 11 from the field, going an incredible, mind-boggling 0 for 8 from the three-point line. Monique Billings managed only 1 of 5 from the floor. The entire Indiana Fever roster, completely excluding Caitlin Clark's brilliant, highly efficient shooting night, shot an abysmal, unacceptable 17.4% from the three-point line collectively. 17.4%. You mathematically and practically cannot optimize a generational pass-first point guard when the surrounding veteran shooters you put around her are building a massive brick house on the perimeter every single time she kicks it out. And then we have to discuss the highly complex paradox of rookie Raven Johnson. In 21 minutes of floor time, Johnson actually generated 5 crucial assists and a staggering game-changing 5 steals. Her elite, relentless point-of-attack perimeter defense is completely undeniable and a huge asset. But her complete and total lack of perimeter shooting ability, going just 1 of 3 for a total of 3 points, significantly complicates the intricate offensive geometry of the team. Her defense is truly elite, but she is mathematically not ready to be a reliable, respected scoring option that defenses have to guard on the perimeter. Nobody in the mainstream sports media wants to talk about what this specific ugly loss actually reveals about the Fever's terrifying, deep-rooted depth problem. They would rather stir up drama than look at the harsh realities of the roster construction. One deeply frustrated fan perfectly summarized the entire disaster, placing the blame squarely on the coach, stating that this woman is completely responsible for the defeat and every single bad thing that is happening. They pointed out that her slow-paced defensive playstyle made the Fever lose by a large margin, and noted that Clark was pushed and pummeled with absolutely no enforcer or any kind of counteroffense to protect her. So let me spell out the harsh truth as clearly as possible for anyone still defending this front office. This 15-point preseason disaster just brutally exposed an undeniable, glaring truth about this team's current construction. Without Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hull actively on the hardwood, this current roster absolutely does not have the required depth to compete with legitimate deep championship contenders. For the second consecutive preseason game, foundational franchise-altering center Aaliyah Boston did not play a single solitary minute. Lexi Hull, a crucial floor spacer, did not play. Grace Berger also sat out the contest. That is 3 highly critical, indispensable rotation players completely missing from the live game action. The exact moment you remove Aaliyah Boston's elite bone-crushing screen setting and Lexi Hull's massive perimeter shooting gravity from the offensive equation, the offensive drop-off is incredibly severe and totally immediate. The Dallas Wings coaching staff recognized this glaring weakness instantly. They immediately packed the defensive paint with bodies, essentially dared the highly inefficient Fever veterans to try and shoot from the outside, and completely choked the offensive geometry that Clark desperately needs to operate. We all understand that this is technically just the preseason. Kelsey Mitchell will obviously have games in the future where she shoots much better than a dreadful 4 of 12. Sophie Cunningham will eventually manage to score a single basket. And most importantly, Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hull will eventually return to the active playing roster. When they finally do return, this entire team looks geometrically and tactically completely different on paper. But here is the massive, blaring 5-alarm concern for the front office right now as the clock ticks down. The Indiana Fever have exactly 1 more preseason game remaining on the schedule on May 2nd, before the absolute unforgiving gauntlet of the regular season officially opens up on May 9th. And exactly who do they play on that highly anticipated May 9th date? They play these exact same highly physical Dallas Wings on national television, broadcasting live on the massive ABC television network. That is exactly 9 short days until the games actually count for real in the standings. 9 days. And 3 highly critical foundational rotation players have not played a single meaningful preseason minute together on the floor to build any sort of chemistry. Here is the uncompromising, urgent message for General Manager Lynn Dunn and the entire Indiana Fever front office hierarchy. You have exactly 9 days to get this billion-dollar roster fully healthy, fully integrated, and on the exact same page tactically. Aaliyah Boston absolutely needs to be on the floor, setting those concrete screens to free up the guards. Lexi Hull absolutely needs to be out there spacing the perimeter so opposing teams cannot just lazily pack the paint with 5 defenders. Because if those key pieces are missing on May 9th against the aggressive Dallas Wings on the ABC broadcast, the end result is going to look exactly like the tragic disaster we all just witnessed tonight. Caitlin Clark will inevitably dominate her heavily restricted minutes. She will easily drop her highly efficient 30 points, and the rest of the veteran team will completely and utterly fall apart under the intense national pressure. Caitlin Clark has absolutely done her part in this equation. The incredibly efficient 4 of 6 shooting from the floor, the clutch 11 of 13 from the free throw line, the complete visionary mastery of the transition geometry that is the true hallmark of the real Caitlin Clark experience.